Hey, what's going on? So, this week in class, I learned about the power of moving desk around. I learned about rewarding good behavior, and my class store is open. All right, let's talk about it. Of course, no, not of course. If you don't know, my name is Mache Allen, and I am a second grade teacher, and this is my first year teaching. So, I am keeping a video journal of everything that I'm learning as I go throughout this year. Hopefully, this will help somebody who's in the same position, and maybe even I may attract some wisdom from people who've been in the game for a long time. So let me talk about a few of the things that I learned this week in class. Oh, you know what? So let me get it out of the way. I always have something with the printer or technology. It's kind of funny to me. Like it ain't like I don't know how to use this stuff, but I haven't used it in the past as much as I do now. So I'm kind of keep coming across things. So this week wasn't necessarily something that I learned. It was something that I got wrong and I got to figure out. Um, so a printer automatically kind of collates when you put things on the flatbed, right? So let's say you have five different things to print. When you put it all down, it prints it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it prints it in stacks, right? But I actually wanted it to print. So I was printing homework for the week. So I needed 20 of lesson twos, 20 lesson threes, 20 lesson fours, etc. So I put them all on there, but the way it printed it was it collated it. I'm thinking, I think there's a collate box to tick. So if I don't select that, then maybe it will print each individual one individually in its own group and then move on to the next one. Any printer aficionados, if you know this to be true, let me know in the comments if that's the case. I'll test it next week, but I think that's probably what the issue will be. Because what ended up happening was, I printed everything and I didn't check it, right? So then I get back to my classroom and I go to hand out the papers and I had to pull out all the lesson twos. I'm like, oh my gosh, because and this could be just me. This could be just me. Chime in if you want to weigh in on this. But it seems like, with lower grades, you kind of got to be on it, and everything has to be set for them because if there's any kind of moment of, oh, we're not actively occupied, he doesn't know what he's doing, then they start getting loud and acting up and doing goofy stuff. So it's like I like to kind of be like, do this, do this, do this, and not really give them time to breathe until it's time for them to do that. Like if they're having free time, okay, now you have free time. But as far as transitioning from one thing to the next, that's where I find, things kind of break down. Now, one thing that was interesting, I had somebody recommend to me to move seats daily. And she was like, I know this sounds crazy, but I had a class that was a little bit more excited than classes I'd had in prior years. And somebody recommended this to me. And when you do this, it throws off their balance and they have to kind of figure things out before they can jump back into being wild. And I'm finding at least, at the beginning of the day, that's when I have my reading block. They're quiet, they're listening, they're participating a little bit, but it seems to be working. I pretty much every morning, and I don't change everybody. Uh, I'm I'm trying to adjust it so that it's my students that probably need a little bit more attention. I'm moving them around to keep them off balance. Also, did I write this in my? Did I say this last week? I don't think this happened last week. No, it was this week. I have a new student, which I thought it was going to be a bigger deal than it was. But most of the time, unless they were never in school before, they've been in school, they kind of know how things work, even if it's only second grade. They've been in kindergarten for a year, they've been in first grade for a year. They've probably been in VPK for a year. So they catch on, he catches on quickly. So we'll see how things go with that. My goal with him is to make sure that he's seated next to or primarily interacting with the students that I want him to emulate. So we'll see how that goes. Um, my school has something that's pretty cool. We have parent volunteers, and what they've done is they've set up a copy pool, right? So every teacher has um, boxes with their name on it, and if you put things that need to be copied and instructions in those boxes, then they get copied. I've heard that the timeline is maybe like 2 or 3 days. So my plan is to use that to make my sub plans. I don't know if we talked about that before, but we're supposed to have emergency sub plans for 5 days, right? So 5 days of work and all the topics that we cover, and just any information that a substitute would need. You have that, in your class. You tell everybody where it is. You tell like your lead teachers where those things are, and then if something happens and you have to be out, it's an emergency. You got to be out for more than 1 or 2 days. Nobody has to come up with work for your class. So I think a copy pool is probably a good place for that because this isn't something that I need as far as I know, right? Because it's an emergency. As far as I know, anything that I need right away. So let me test that and get back to you and let you know how that goes. I've started last week. I started kind of organizing and putting things in place and thinking about how I want to do things because Tuesday I have an honest to goodness teacher work day. So I'm way too excited about that. But the goal is to get my room clean for one. And when I say clean, like, just not messy in terms of my desk and my paperwork and stuff. Two, um, really kind of set up receptacles to put things because I get so much stuff coming in, right? All this stuff goes in my mailbox. Kids bring me homework, and I don't always have a place to put it. So it ends up just going on my desk and not organized. So I want to have places where everything goes. So when things come in, they go to that place. So then that way it doesn't just pile up over time. Or even if it does pile up, I know where to put it. Because right now I don't know where to put it. And I want to refresh my my board. The what do you call it? Bulletin board. Just the, where you put kids' names and all that type of stuff. Yeah, I want to do that. So for the fall, update and do something new for that. So um, one thing that was exciting. So you a lot of people are opposed to, and it's not necessarily great to constantly test the kids, but when you test them on a regular basis, you can kind of see something. Now, what I do find is at the beginning of the year, especially in second grade, a lot of them just they don't care, and second graders are still building test etiquette. So in a lot of ways, they don't really know to be quiet during tests or to do their best or to pay attention. It's just work that my teacher's telling me to do. So, okay. And your kids that are a little bit more academically driven, they'll try. Kids who aren't are like, I don't care about this. So, and then we're in this weird situation where I think they're trying to ease them onto working on the computer. So we give them a paper test, and this is a decision that my grade level made. They get a paper test, they do the paper test, and then after that, they have to enter the paper test into the computer platform. And it's interesting that some of them will do and try on the paper test, And then when you direct them to the computer platform, they're like, I already did this. I don't want to do this. And I've had to tell kids, hey, what are you doing? You don't have to do the test. Just enter the information that you entered already. And some of them are actually really trying to do the test. Some of them are just like Christmas treeing the test. I'm like, why are you doing that? You already did it. It's work to get them to know how to properly take a test. So I had a couple parent conferences last week, and I had to tell them that testing doesn't tell the whole picture because one, the test kind of looks for, okay, this is the whole of second grade knowledge, and what does your kid know out of that? And we're kind of getting close to how much of second grade knowledge do they know as you move through the year. That's one thing. Two, it's testing their ability to take a test, which has really little to do with how much knowledge they have, but can they stay on task? Can they stay focused? And they're second graders. So the answer is maybe sometimes, right? So, but what I did see, I've given a particular type of test that we give, two of them, and I can see improvement. And listen, I'm not gonna lie, as a teacher, that feels good. Like, hey, maybe something is happening. Maybe I'm doing something. I don't know, but definitely something is happening. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not horrible at this thing. Maybe some things are actually happening. So that does feel good. Um, One thing that I did, and I'm leaning more towards and really trying to find opportunities to do this. What now in terms of discipline? It's you have plenty of opportunities to um, address or correct behavior that you don't want. But as a teacher, you have to make the effort and find opportunities to address the behavior that you do want, and address that individually as well as publicly. Because one thing I don't like is to constantly um, only deal with or talk with the kids that aren't doing the things that they're supposed to do. Because the more you address the behavior that you don't want, it gets attention. Your good behavior doesn't. And then sometimes you end up in a situation where people do more of the behavior that will get your attention, which is not what you want. So I do make sure, like, I've I've always known that I should praise good behavior individually, but I did learn recently that I should praise good behavior from the whole class. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, because if I can fuss at the class, then I should be able to praise the class. So I did a lot of that, this week. Hey, what you guys are doing right now, that is exactly what I want. That is amazing. Thank you so much. And I want to do a mix of praise, as well as, prizes and things. Some people are heavy on prizes and things, but praise is great, So the one exciting thing I did is there's a platform that they work on for their math and their reading, and it's a daily thing, right? It's 15 minutes a day. I mean, we have a couple hours of school. I need 15 minutes. So what I do, 15 minutes a day, is really like 75 minutes a week, right? But I told them, if you can complete 45 minutes a week of this platform, then we have Fun Friday, right? Fun Friday, you figure out what that is depending on who you are as a teacher and what you like, right? But what I want to do is bring in additional elements to Fun Friday every now and then. So I went and bought a whole bunch of ice cream sandwiches, right? And I was like, I'm telling them, so I'm telling them throughout the week because I knew that was my plan. Friday, I'm like, hey, listen, this is the list of people who have completed everything I asked them to complete. You want to be on that list, and I made sure that was clear. There were a couple of my good kids who, for whatever reason, didn't. I went around to them individually, say, hey, make sure you're on that list. And because they're, the kids that do what they're supposed to, they were like, well, okay, this is weird. Let me make sure since he's making such a big deal out of this, right? So, um, snack time, got my ice cream sandwiches, passed them out, and it was a wonderful thing and chaos at the same time because the people who did not get the ice cream sandwiches were not happy, and they were demanding their ice cream sandwiches. And I'm like, hey, what do you need to do to get those? So Monday morning, I'm going to make sure that I say, hey, you remember what happened on Friday? Let's make sure that does not happen again. And I think I'm going to definitely leverage. I want them to move as a group, even though they often get awarded individually and there's things that they have to do individually. I do want to leverage, hey, I want the whole group to do this. Because to be honest with you, if the whole group is moving and at a certain level, it does make it easier for me to teach, because I don't have to teach at 30 different levels. Maybe I have to teach at 15 different levels, right? So if I can get everybody at least close to the same area, when I throw a beach ball, I hit more than one person. So, oh, last but not least, I opened my class store. So most times, most teachers do this, and at least that I've seen, there's a lot of treasure box items, right? It just, as a parent and having kids, man, I mean, sometimes they like those things, but a lot of times, a lot of those trinkets they just end up being trash. They end up being thrown around the class and broken and things like that. So what I wanted to do was coupons. So I got coupons for like be a teacher's assistant for the day, sit in my chair, eat lunch with the teacher and a friend, which I'm gonna tell you what I did with that one. So the things that I thought that they might really, really want, I priced a little bit higher. And just so you know our pricing structure, I went 3 weeks. The kids have the opportunity to make about $20 a week, and I probably should bump that up a little bit higher. But if they make $20 a week, then they should have had about $60, give or take, right? Because we had a couple days out here and there. $60. So my most expensive thing was actually 85, right? And that was like free time for the whole class, 20 minutes. So I made it 85, like, hey, do you want to save for it? But the most expensive thing that I really wanted them to reach was like 50 or 55, right? But lunch with the teacher, I made that 15 because that's a relationship building thing. And I would actually want more of them to get and to do that. And a couple of them did grab it. So that was good. Interestingly enough, I had stickers. No one was interested in the stickers. So I'd need to consider what other what other trinket situation thing would I want? Maybe candy. We were coming off of Halloween. Nobody needed candy, so I didn't have to have candy. But that's something to think about and to consider. But that worked really well. So, yep, I think that is everything. That is what I learned this week. I would love to learn something from you this week. If you're a teacher or if you've just been in classrooms, what things in terms of a class store have you seen that you thought was interesting or that worked? What things could I put maybe on my Amazon wish list to get for the students? I know sometimes, okay, maybe like funky pencils, right? Because they need to have pencils and I want them to have pencils. So it makes sense for me to do that because one, you got a pencil, two, that puts it in the classroom. Oh, one last thing, and these are things that are beyond my control. This will make me sad if it's the case, but I had one of my students tell me that they're moving on Saturday and they won't be in class on Monday anymore ever. And something happened and I had a reason to reach out to her people, called one number, disconnected, called another number. I don't know if that person spoke English, so because they didn't really respond to me. They said hello. I said a whole lot of things. They said okay, bye. I don't know. So that would make me very sad, because sweet kid, and I wouldn't get an opportunity to say goodbye. Like I didn't want to say it because sometimes kids say things. So I don't know if it's true, but if it is, I can't control grown people and what they do. So um, I hope not. And if she is leaving, I hope that me and the class have an opportunity to tell her bye. So we'll see what happens. But that is what I learned this week in class. All right, y'all, take care.